Hello, pirates. So today we're going to jump into this new planner and we're going to explore a little bit with our central idea. We're going to jump into some early Colorado history, and then we're going to start with some of our early people who lived in Colorado. So what we have on this first slide here is, of course, our theme, which is where we are in place and time. We talked on Monday a little bit about what that means. And then below that in green, you're going to see our central idea. So remember, our central idea is our overarching idea through this whole planner. So this is kind of the big idea. And our big idea for this planner is, how do communities grow, change, and adapt over time? So on this first slide here, you can see a map of the world. You can see a map of the United States, which then zooms into Colorado, which then zooms into our little space here, or our place in time here, with Fort Collins, Bellevue, and of course LaPorte, which isn't named on this map. So what we're going to look at first, historians, is to just kind of take a little moment to think about our whole planet through time. So this is a time spiral. This is a way for you to just process for a minute all of the changes that our Earth has had over time. And it's kind of hard to see, but right back down here at the bottom, you can see this little dot, which says 4.5 billion years ago. And of course, that was the start of our planet with the theory of the Big Bang, which is where our Earth originated from. As you can see, we kind of spiral through time here, and really beginning life on the planet in this Precambrian area. So you can kind of see where we have some single cell organisms. We have the beginning of some of these jellyfish and trilobites and these organisms that have been on our planet that some of them are still here. And as you move through here, you're going to see Paleozoic, you're going to see Mesozoic, you're going to see the beginning of dinosaurs here, and you're going to notice that we don't see humans until here. And they're hard to see. You guys can actually look this up online if you want to see it a little bit better. This is a time spiral. I got it off of Wikipedia. So if you and your parents want to dig into this a little bit more, please feel free to pull it up and look at it. But you here some early humans, and they're making a fire, and you can see that 65 million years ago would have been about when our dinosaur species became extinct. So you can see this whole area here, this whole time here is the time of the dinosaurs, and then after that, of course, is the time of mammals and other animals, and then of course humans. So that brings us to the time on our planet, of course, when there were dinosaurs. About 200 million years ago, dinosaurs roamed the planet. There were dinosaurs that roamed on the land that is now Colorado. If we were in class, we would do a little bit more learning about those dinosaurs and the landscape that they called home. We're going to kind of speed through this part because we want to get to the Fort Collins history learning. And since we are limited on what we can do with you guys, we've kind of decided to skip through the dinosaur piece. But please feel free on your own, if you're interested in that, to study dinosaurs of Colorado because they are quite interesting. This is just a map of Colorado, and then you can find some dinosaur fossils and things actually through these areas in Colorado. So if you want to research that on your own, please do. So the next couple of slides talks to us about early human migration. So early humans did a lot of migrating. So they, of course, were moving through lands. We learned a little bit earlier in the year about Pangea. When we were studying volcanoes and earthquakes, we talked about the breakup of those land masses. Well, at this point in history, our land masses are where they are now. So at the point in history where we're going to drop in right now, our continents are all where they are currently. So meaning at this point in time, our continents looked very similar to the way they look now. But many thousands of years ago, the world was a very different place. During our last ice age, we had a natural bridge that formed between the landmass we call Asia and the landmass that we now call North America. This allowed people, humans, to travel out of Asia and into what is now North America. Of course, at this time, people were living in small nomadic groups, which means they were traveling around together to hunt, and they mostly would travel to find food. So there were not a lot of, there were no established civilizations at this time. There were no established cities or towns. There were just groups of nomadic people that were traveling and following food. So this page says, all over Asia, small groups of wandering people or nomads moved from place to place in search of food. They hunted large animals, including huge mastodons and mammoths, using weapons made of stone. They ate what food they could find, and when it was gone, they moved on. So you may remember from our image from our slides from Monday and from last week, that picture of a spear point. So that's going to be coming up soon. But as I read this sentence here, they hunted large animals, including huge mastodons and mammoths, using weapons made of stone. So that may connect your historic brain back to that picture that we saw in our slides. So here you can see groups of wandering people or nomads. I see that the landscape is very icy. This is during our last ice age on our planet, which means the climate was quite cold at this time. There were still some ice age animals, one of which were mammoths and mastodons. And you can see here that these people are hunting. So they would hunt the mammoths for their meat, for their bones, for their pelts or their fur, and they would use the entire animal in order to survive. So following the large game animals, these Stone Age hunters crossed over from Asia into what would later be called the New World. No one exactly knows when the first people arrived in the Americas, but it was probably around 20,000 years ago. So of course, historians have to use artifacts and things that they find in order to make theories or ideas around when these people came through what is now North America. But it was around 20,000 years ago. So these people were traveling out of Asia and into North America, or into the New World, as they call it here on this book page. So this movement or migration of people continued very slowly over thousands of years. So new groups moved across from Asia. Earlier arrivals moved farther into the new land, and gradually people spread throughout what are now Canada, the United States, Mexico, Central, and South America. So you can see these purple arrows are showing you the movement or the migration of these early humans through these lands. So of course, as people were coming through, there were no other humans. So of course, maybe as more people migrated through, of course, they added to the humans that were already there, but it was mostly wild, of course. So during this time, Earth's climate was changing. Temperatures slowly grew warmer, and the ice that covered much of the globe began to melt. The oceans rose, and around 12,000 years ago, the land link between Asia and North America was covered by water. And so no more people would come into the New World on foot. So of course, later they would come by boat, and much, much later by other modes of transportation. But there was a time that after the climate changed and the waters rose, that land bridge was no longer accessible. Just so you know, there have been some new theories around the land bridge. And if that's something that you're curious about, I would encourage you to research it. There are some new ideas around human migration that have actually happened since this book was published. So I always find that interesting when new things start happening. So as we kind of close in on Colorado specifically, I'm going to introduce you today to the Folsom people. So you have seen this Folsom point before, because in our slides from last week, this was the very first image that you looked at. So the Folsom people were characterized by the use of Folsom points. That means that this specific group of people used these specific points. So they would use them as projectile tips, and these points were used in the slaughter and butchering of bison. The early people, of course, would hunt mammoths and mastodons, but as those animals became extinct, these same early people started hunting different types of animals. So we know this because these tools were left behind and were later found by archaeologists. And more specifically, there is a a site, which I will get to in a moment, where we found hundreds of these Folsom points all in one spot. So I'm going to show you that in just a minute. The Folsom complex is a name given by archaeologists, so those are people who study the past and artifacts from the past, to a specific archaeological culture. So it's a Paleo-Indian archaeological culture that occupied much of central North America. So if we think about central North America, and I'm going to skip through this just for a moment, we see that Colorado falls in central North America. So the term Paleo-Indian is a short period of American prehistory when the diet of the people was big game, so mammoths, mastodon, and bison. So understanding that during that period of time, mammoths and mastodons became less prominent, and then these people started eating bison. So you can see here we have mastodon, we have bison, we have mammoths, and these were all killed by both Clovis and Folsom spears. Clovis people also lived even earlier than the Folsom people, but they were all early nomadic hunters who lived in this area. So in northern Colorado, right here, just to the northeast of LaPorte, we have something called the Lindenmeyer site. And this is a fossil site that contains the most extensive Folsom culture yet found. So that means that it has the most evidence of a camp where the Folsom people lived. And there were bones that were found and also spearhead points that were found that led archaeologists to believe that this is where the Folsom people lived or lived for a time, and then would also kill and eat their animals, of course, and take care of their families. These artifacts told us that this was about 10,000 years ago. So that falls within that 20,000 years ago when these people started traveling in this area. So what I want you guys to do now is we're going to move from this slideshow, and you are going to click on the link that's on Google Classroom. So I am going to attempt to show it to you here, but just in case it doesn't work, you guys are going to move to these videos. So I'm going to include the link in this today for this video here, which is called Fort Collins Before. And you're going to look down here at the side, and you see this first one titled Early People. So as a part of your learning today, I want you to watch this video, just the first one, please, titled Early People. So when you click this here, the video will pop up inside this video player right here. And then we will work through some questions together that go along with this video. But the first thing I want you to do is to just take some time to watch the video. I believe it's about 20 minutes long. And then afterwards, I will we'll work through some questions together. But today I wanted you to just get an idea of kind of where we were starting in time and where we were starting with these early nomadic hunters. Thanks for listening today, historians. I can't wait to explore this with you.